DJ Cinde-rella is incredibly talented and she grew up around music. So tell me, is that how you got into DJing?
Yeah, absolutely. Every kind of morning I wake up, there's music playing in the household. My mom, her sister, and her brother all sing. Unfortunately, I wasn't blessed with that talent. Hence why I was like, what can I do with music? And that's kind of later in my life how got into DJing. But yeah, I was surrounded by music, lots of like vinyl, R&B, Motown, a lot of 90s R&B, like the Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation. So I was very into kind of like the outfits, the rhythm, the routines, the music. So yeah, it's been a big part of my life.
So what kind of genres do you play musically?
Yeah, so my influences because of the soul and Motown and R&B, also country. I do play a lot of R&B and hip hop, club classics, but then over time it's kind of like spiraled into dance, house, a little bit of electro, Afro beats, amapiano. I think because I've lived in quite a few different places, I've had so many influences when it comes to music, so I've really sort of embraced all kinds of sounds. And then I like alternative sounds like Brazilian or Portuguese, other like alternative African sounds as well, Asian. So yeah, I kind of like to mix everything in. But at the core, I'm an R&B and hip hop girl. But I love all kinds of music. So
So you've done some quite sort of high-end stuff, haven't you? So tell me about some of because you've been a tour DJ, haven't
I
you? So that's something
have.
very, very unique, isn't it? So
Yes.
who have you been a tour DJ for?
Yep. So I did an amazing 4 years with Becky Hill, and I was kind of with her at a really great time of her career because around 2021 she really took off and got all of like the kind of publicity and notoriety that she deserved for all the hard work that she had put in. And I had started DJing with her in 2018. So we were doing kind of like some of the smaller gigs, but my first gig with her was Pete Tong Ibiza Classics.
Nice.
I was so nervous. I was like, I better not mess this up. This is like a serious gig. I think Craig David was there as well, and I have had a crush on him since I was like a teenager. So I was like, I really got to be here and impress people. And despite the nerves, she was just such an amazing person that just kind of embraced you and made you feel comfortable. So yeah, we went in for my very first set with her, Pete Song Ibiza Classics. I didn't mess it up, thankfully. Got through it. And then since then, we just had so many amazing gigs.
So how did she find out about you?
Interestingly, like anything in this industry, it's all about networks. So I started a radio career back in like 2013. I had a very brief radio training session with quite a few different of the presenters for the station. And one of the girls in that session ended up becoming Becky's DJ like a few years later. And then me and her lost touch. And then all of a sudden she just kind of contacted me and she was like, hey, Becky's looking for a DJ. She likes female DJs. She's really about sort of diversity and inclusion. So would you be interested in just doing a cover gig for me? Because I won't be able to do the Pete Tong gig. And I was completely shocked, elated by that phone call, and we met up. She briefed me on kind of how she does the sets, and then that was the first time I was with Becky. And then that particular girl, Tisha, she went on to kind of pursue her solo career as a DJ and producer, and then that's when Becky kind of took me on a little bit more full time. So yeah, so it was all through my network, just this one casual meeting with this girl who then called me a couple of years later and was like, hey, do you want this gig? And obviously I wasn't gonna turn it down.
Of course. But what other gigs do you do? So do you do lots of private parties, and what other things do you do?
Yeah, so speaking of tour DJing briefly, I've had the pleasure of DJing with R&B artist Lloyd as well. So we did the Millennium Tour when he was here with a whole host of R&B artists like Omarion, Trey Songz. Like it's been incredible. So I've worked with him on and off when he does some European gigs, and we also did the Neo Champagne and Roses tour in 2024 together in Australia.
Wow.
So that was just an incredible experience being on tour with Lloyd, an artist that I've respected so long, and of course Neo. So that's another big deal for me. Other gigs that I've done are sort of corporate. So I've worked with like F1, Burberry, L'Oreal.
What about birthday parties? Do you ever do a birthday party?
I do birthdays. I've done weddings. I've done sports DJing. I was the official DJ for the London Lions basketball team for like 3 seasons, which was incredible. So I've done kind of like sports, corporate, birthdays, weddings, tour, festivals. Like it's been such a huge variety of gigs and TV appearances as well, obviously with Becky. And it's all been incredible.
So if a client books you through SpinSisters,
Yes.
how do you approach that relationship? What do you do to sort of prepare for that gig?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to connect with the client and find out what they want and what they're looking for. I think it's very much a case of, during my travels, I've realized that music kind of connects everybody. And if you can get that right for somebody and the people in that room, it's going to change their whole experience. So it's really important for me to just kind of meet with them, understand what they're looking for, give them a little bit of guidance around music, because they kind of say things thinking that that's what they want, but you do have to guide them because you've got the experience of making a room alive. So you have to share that with them as well. And I think it's more about ensuring that they can trust you with the job, because a lot of these occasions are like very special and meaningful to them. So you don't want to mess that up. You want to enhance that. So yeah, I think it's really just about identifying what experience that they want, listening to them, making sure that you play the songs that they want, but putting your spin on it so they get a bit of your flavor.
So if someone was going on the SpinSisters website, they want to book a DJ, they're thinking about booking you, what is your unique selling point?
I think it's probably a level of professionalism, but also a level of fun. I've got so much experience across different types of events that you're probably going to end up with somebody who's going to be able to read your crowd and hear what you're saying and hear what you need. So I think that's probably one of my USPs. And I've got quite a broad selection of music. So I will always find something to please the crowd. But I think professionalism, but also a level of personability is probably what you're going to get from me. Great music, great DJ skills.
And Cinde-rella, you're just so damn cool, aren't you?
I try.
So you talked about there that you've lived in different places in the world. So tell me about those places that you've lived in.
Yeah, so I grew up in Sydney, Australia. And then I moved to Europe when I was around 11 years old. So I've been in Europe for quite a while. England and Belgium. And then once I finished high school, I traveled a little bit more between the States, the Caribbean, Jamaica specifically, Africa as well. I lived in Congo for a little while. So living in Belgium, you've got a lot of Congolese people. So yeah, through my relationships, I ended up doing a little bit of time in Congo. So that's, having that Zouk, and they call it Zairoise music, influence as well was pretty impactful.
Where do you stand on people coming up to you while you're DJing and asking for requests?
I actually like it because they remind me of songs I may not have thought of, and often I will find a way to blend them into my mix. That's part of the challenge for me. Like, it could be something completely off what I'm playing, but I challenge myself to try and incorporate it, or if I can't, I will think about how I can incorporate it in a future mix. So I actually welcome requests. Yeah.
What about telling me about some of the most sort of favourite gigs that you've done? I know you mentioned the Pete Tong one already.
Yes.
Is there anything else that stands out?
Yeah. Again, I have to go back to Becky because that was such an amazing part of my DJ career. And in 2022, I don't know what happened, but everything just took off. So that year we got to perform at the Brits. We did Love Island. We did the UEFA Women's Final that England went on to win. The halftime, I think it was the opening performance. I said halftime because I'm thinking about American Super Bowl, but I think it was the opening performance. that was to 90,000 people, and that was pretty incredible. But in the same respect, I did my niece's 16th, 18th, and 21st birthdays. And, those are just as much of a meaningful experience for me as the other stuff. So I had some great experiences with Becky. And I think doing I did the F1 Christmas party, Formula One Christmas party, and their special guest was will.i.am.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
And
cool.
he touched my decks. So I haven't cleaned them since. And that was about 3 years ago. Yes. So I just pulled up and they were like, hey, will.i.am is really close friends with the CEO. I was like, as in the will.i.am? And he's gonna potentially do a couple of songs. And they kind of briefed me when I got there. So I was like, okay, thank goodness I have the songs. And then I went on stage and he was doing a little announcement, and then he said something like, hit it DJ or whatever, and I had to play this song. And I was like, am I actually performing with will.i.am? So
He was like just like emceeing, singing.
He was just emceeing, yeah, and then he'd like give me a little sign and would cut the song and put the next song. We did about 3 or 4 songs.
Cool.
Yeah, he touched my fader and my mixer, and it was just all very exciting. So that was also a pretty phenomenal experience.